Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Out to Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC. Cassie, good to have you with us again.
Good morning, Kevin. Great to be with you.
You know, we've got a little project, and I'm hoping you could help us with it.
Okay.
You're thinking, oh, my gosh, I talk to all these radio goofs all the time. What's this guy got for me on this early Monday morning?
More like first thing in the week. What are we committing to? But sure, go ahead.
This might be our last time together. We're trying to get the president here. He's been to all these states. He was in Nevada over the weekend. He hasn't been to Idaho yet, and we're trying to figure out a grassroots way to make that happen. Any ideas?
Well, I think talking about it is a good way to make it happen. Get your listeners going. I can always put in the ask. But I think you guys need representatives who are doing worse for you. You know, you guys need to get some Democrats in office that are resisting, and that usually helps focus the president on your state.
That's tough. We've got the supermajority, 90% Republicans in the Senate and the House. I mean, it's like I said, it's almost too good to be true. I wish.
Right.
Well, no, I don't wish. Considering the comments
right.
We'll start with Maxine Waters. I guess all bets are off when. Cassie, you go out, or I go out, or anybody. She wants people to harass Republicans and Trump people.
Yeah, I'm watching her video on mute on my TV right now, and it's pretty insane. And actually, I should say, yeah, Kevin, to reiterate, maybe we should get the president to come out to reward the good behavior that's going on in your state. Maybe that should be our ploy. Not saying that we should turn back the dial there, but yeah, it is incredible. And what's more incredible than her just saying, go out, anybody who works in the Trump administration needs to be heckled, or don't let them be in your restaurant or in your neighborhood. That's a problem as it stands right there. But as we've talked many times before, it just goes to verify that Democrats remain out of touch with the majority of Americans. I mean, she's spouting this off in Los Angeles, California, this deeper than blue area of town, I'm sure, and it's completely tone deaf to where the rest of the country is, where we're experiencing good things that have come from this president. And we know that these are good people who go and work not just in the administration, but truly in government. I mean, by and large, they're good civil servants. And to me, it's just tone deaf.
Well, and let's get to what happened with Sarah Sanders over the weekend. She wants to go have a nice dinner, and all of a sudden she's told to leave.
And you think about how Sarah Sanders sat there at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and just took it she's such a class act. And then here again with the restaurant, she just quietly got up and left. And yes, she tweeted about it later, as she should have, to let people know. And it's just incredible that we saw with Secretary Nielsen earlier this week and other administration officials that this is what the resist movement comes to. They think, we're going to deny you service. We're going to make life uncomfortable for you. We're going to publicly embarrass you. That's going to be our hook to getting what we want, as opposed to actually being for sound policy proposals and working to get people elected who can help implement them. But that's the problem. They know that their positions on these issues resist. That's not a soluble position. That's just causing a problem just for the sake of causing a problem. So that's their problem. They can't get people elected to do what they want to do. So they just go and make life difficult for those who are trying to do the best they can.
Oh, Cassie, you and the RNC and other truth tellers fight this every day, this totalitarian vibe, and it doesn't come from the government. It's coming from the media. It's coming from politicians. It's coming from activists. I mean, you know, one doesn't have to read George Orwell or A Brave New World to understand this is censorship. This is quelling dissent.
Well, that's right. But we also see at the RNC and the president sees it, you know, his approval ratings, again, tied for the highest approval ratings he's had taking office. Enthusiasm at an 18-year high, unemployment at an 18-year low. I mean, things are feeling good and things are going well. And so for our part, we're constantly keeping our attention on our true audience. Yes, it's hard to have a week like last week where you've got the TV on and you're talking about this horrific situation at the border and left and right just debunking the stories. They're not true. They're just putting out whatever's out there to perpetuate their narrative, their bias. But, you know, I talk with my family all the time who are my great my great compass, my true north. And they say, we don't know what to believe anymore, so we're just shutting it off. We're going to go find our own sources. We're not going to just keep cable news on in the background ad nauseum. And I think that's the result for so many people. And that's why you're seeing CNN's ratings at a record low, MSNBC not far behind them, because they've shown their hand and people are just turning it off. So we hope that'll be the result in November as well, when as I said before on the show, that these reporters are so shocked to see the Republican Party and the president defy history in November the way that the president did in 2016.
Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC, Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. It was a rough week last week for all Americans, and it's the scary part about this, and you and the outreach movement, when you're, hey, this is what's really happening. I mean, Barack Obama has the same policy on the border. It gets no coverage, and they're comparing the president and others to Nazis and everything else. So the president can't win, because if he sticks with this, he sticks to the law, he's going to get criticized. If he shows compassion, the law is going to get overturned. So he does this, and you've got Chuck Todd yesterday doing the Deion Sanders victory dance into the end zone, going, he finally had to break. And I'm going, this is advocacy, not reporting.
Right. And unfortunately, that's nothing new for Chuck Todd and so many others. You just hear it every single week. But yes, you make the number one point that this policy was in place long before Donald Trump took office. And because it's been intermittently enforced, that has led us to the situation we are currently in, with people taking advantage of the loopholes in our laws. And so, as Secretary Nielsen said last week, we don't have the luxury of giving everyone the benefit of the doubt that they are who they say they are. We have to put everyone through a process who attempts to come into our country. That makes sense. And by the way, that makes sense to a majority of Americans. A majority of Americans want our laws to be followed. And if there is a problem with our laws, then we need to fix them. But this idea of amnesty or open borders, which, let's be honest, we know that is what Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren and so many of these other, Kamala Harris, all of these Democrats who have had no issue running to the border with a TV camera behind them, that's what they really want. And that therein lies the problem with this issue and with the president being able to get something done on it, because every time the Republicans pull together a package, they know they can't get it through the Senate because you need 9 Democrats. And the Democrats aren't into fixing our immigration laws. They just want open borders.
Well, and then you have Kamala Harris, the senator, saying we need to abolish the not the Border Patrol, but ICE.
ICE. She has that. And then Cynthia Nixon, who's running for governor in New York, the actress, she said their terrorist organization also thinks they should be abolished. I mean, that again is so tone deaf to the situation, because while we can hope that the majority of these people are coming here with the right intentions to gain access to our country legally and live out their American dream, we can all be Pollyanna and hope that. We know that's not the reality. And that's why we, as a country, the number one thing we have a right to is to be a sovereign nation, and that is to defend our borders. And so that we would have elected officials who are putting the rights of illegal immigrants over Americans, and certainly those immigrants who came to our country legally and became citizens through the lawful avenues, it's just a slap in the face to all of those people. I am all for fixing our immigration system. I think we all agree it is flawed. But to have these folks who are using all of these synonyms for open borders, abolish ICE, to me that's a synonym for open borders. That's a problem, and those people should not be allowed to have the microphone that they've been given.
Cassie, when you take a look at what's going on with the president this week, what should we expect? Again, it's such a roller coaster. I remember in the summer it used to be pretty dead around Washington. Not anymore.
Oh, that's true. And I feel always right before this 4th of July break is kind of the rush to get something done. And then post 4th of July, everybody sort of settles in for the summer. But I think immigration is going to continue to be the topic that's going to drive all of the coverage this week and all the conversations. Of course, we know the House is set to consider their compromise package, but there's no faith that the Senate will take it up because, again, we need 9 Democrats. And so that's a conversation for them to have over in the legislative branch. But meantime, over at the RNC and with the president out on the road, we're going to be highlighting that hypocrisy and highlighting those people that are representing states that voted for President Trump in 2016. And those folks aren't representing the people that sent them there. And so I know the president will be in Wisconsin this week. I think he's got a couple other states on his agenda, and those, not Idaho, because you guys are doing such a great job, but those are the states that are, of course, represented by folks, Democrats who live in a state that President Trump won in 2016. So you've got Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, for example, who has been no friend to the administration and no friend to her constituents. And I think you're going to hear a little more about that later this week from the president.
Well, Cassie, we always appreciate you, and thank you very much for joining us today, ma'am.
Always great to start the week with you. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cassie Smedley joining us on how we can bring the president to the Gem State. You can go to KIDOTalkRadio.com to take a look at that. By the way, I want to thank everybody who attended the Boise Music Festival. Our great friend Ray Amaya was out taking photos. I was a nitwit as usual, get up, do the big announcements. Hello, welcome everybody. And then I blow out my voice for only 40 seconds of work. So please bear with us today. That's why we need your calls today more than ever. Your entertaining and informative calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And don't forget, tomorrow night is God and Country, a free event at the Ford Idaho Center, the amphitheater, free fireworks. You can hear the fireworks right here on your official God and Country station. KIDO Talk Radio, that's 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Coming up next, I do want to get your thoughts on this shooting that happened in Meridian, happened over the weekend, happened on Saturday. You heard Maggie talk about it. And how safe do we feel? How safe do we need to be? And what can we do to be safer here in the Treasure Valley? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Corner of 8th and Newport in Meridian, where officers are still on scene investigating. So they first got here when they got that call around 12:20 this afternoon. It was a call about a case of domestic violence. So when they got here, the police say they found blood near the door and the victim, who told the officers the suspect had knives and was tearing up the inside of the home. While the officers were establishing a perimeter, they discovered a small fire and the suspect in the backyard. Officers tried to negotiate with the suspect, but they say he was confrontational, saying things to the effect of, "I'm not going back to jail." And eventually, police say the suspect pulled a handgun from his waistband. That's when officers jumped into action. One used a taser and another fired a gun. That bullet hit the suspect in the chest. 2 other officers witnessed the event but did not use force. The officers provided first aid to the suspect, who was taken to St. Al's in Boise, where he later died. The chief of police says these situations are never easy.
These incidents don't happen very often in Meridian, and I can tell you that one thing that people forget is the officers are human too, and those emotions that you deal with as a human being, the officers face those too. It's a very hard time for them.
The chief tells me 2012 is the last time there was an officer-involved shooting within the Meridian Police Department.
There you have it, our friends from Channel 7 talking about this story that happened over the weekend. And we see the ever-changing Treasure Valley, and I don't know if there's much we can do about it. Well, we can have our morning town hall meeting at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, and determine whether or not we're going to sit here and let these things happen. Again, big ups to the Meridian Police Department for trying to handle this situation in a nonviolent way. And there is no in-between with us. We stand proudly with the police. We stand proudly with law enforcement and their families. But you talk about a Saturday, it's beautiful weather, the Boise Music Festival is going on, you're having a good time, and then boom, you have to deal with this situation. And the officers responded. You have a suspect who is acting recklessly. You have a suspect who is looking to inflict harm. He's got knives. He pulls out a handgun, says, quote, "You're not taking me back to jail." Well, okay, you're not going to go back to jail. And those officers have to protect themselves. How many times do we look at police and say they make the extraordinary seem ordinary? And I couldn't imagine what those officers went through to make that determination, to try and save themselves and try to do their very best not to harm the suspect who unfortunately passed. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work safely in our time.
Zuri Gabbard.
And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So I'm just sitting back here thinking about this issue involving this officer-involved shooting. We take a look at what goes on in traffic. We talk about it quite a bit. And you think to yourself, what more is there to keep us safe? And it's a benefit that we have this freedom here in Idaho that you can conceal and carry and make sure that you're safe. But, and usually how this program works, it comes down to how safe do you feel? Do we feel safe at church? Do we feel safe in the movie theaters? At school? And instead of really informing people anymore, and we talked about this with our friend Cassie from the RNC, Cassie Smedley, the press, with their fake news agenda, they like to hype things and hyperbole and everything else. Right? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And I'm sitting there watching all these school shootings and the coverage of this and people scaring us. And then, you go into schools and people are just having a good time. Just having a good time. And the learning goes on outside of what we hear and see on the television or the internet or the radio, right? So here you have this officer-involved shooting. You got another deadly accident. You got this things going on, and you wonder what is happening to our Treasure Valley. Now, again, we only know what the news reports say, but when the officers ask you to do something, you do it. And in Idaho and in the Treasure Valley, we support our law enforcement officers. That's what the national media doesn't get. That's what the activists don't get. I didn't see the activists running into the Pulse nightclub when that went up, did you? What do you think? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And by the way, this is a very unfortunate story where we have Maxine Waters calling on people to go after Trump officials. If you missed it over the weekend, if you were floating the river or went to the Boise Music Festival, or maybe went up to McCall and you tuned out and you're going, well, Kevin, what happened? Well, Maxine Waters over the weekend said it's time to go after Trump people, to harass them. Now you have the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, who went to a restaurant minding her own business. She was told to leave. Now, I thought you had to serve everybody. Remember, you had poor Jack Phillips. He didn't want to serve someone, and they took him to the Supreme Court.
Up a list here of Democratic colleagues of yours who've called for the resignation of Kristen Nielsen, the Secretary of Homeland Security, in light of what we've seen happen over these last few days. Are you going to add your name to those ranks? Do you think she should step aside?
Oh, absolutely. She should step aside. I have no sympathy for these people that are in this administration who, know it's wrong what they're doing on so many fronts, but they tend to not want to confront this president or even leave, but they know what they're doing is wrong. And I want to tell you, for these members of his cabinet who remain and try to defend him, they're not going to be able to go to a restaurant. They're not going to be able to stop at a gas station. They're not going to be able to shop at a department store. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you. This is wrong. This is unconscionable. We can't keep doing this to children.
Right. And by the way, she was praised last night at the BET Awards. We'll talk about it next, how the left has turned up the volume on all of us, and get your reaction, because that's what we do here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And coming up, we're going to hear from Jim and Cindy and you in response to what Maxine Waters had to say. This officer involved shooting in Meridian. First, we go to Jeff Manasso, joins us from Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Talk a little cars. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. So the future of auto brands appears to be in cross cooperation. They're merging on certain aspects of what they do. Volkswagen and Ford now in preliminary talks to develop and produce vehicles together, most likely starting with commercial vans, though Ford says potential projects could span to a number of different areas in a partnership that would share development and production costs. Audi and Hyundai also teaming up to boost hydrogen fuel cell cars in an effort to boost an energy segment that really has lagged behind battery and electric vehicles, which are much more expensive and take much more time to refuel. So they're hoping to at least corner the market on hydrogen fuel cells. GM and Honda also have a partnership to jointly develop electric vehicles with hydrogen fuel cells that are expected to go on sale as early as 2020. And BMW is also working on a similar partnership with Toyota.
Wow, it's interesting. I wouldn't think BMW and Toyota, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the partnership and what works for a company to merge with another company on certain aspects of what they do in productivity and development. It's cost saving measures that these companies are turning to, and some of these companies are ahead of the game in development, and so that's attractive to other companies. And so it's actually not surprising to see these companies doing this because that's just kind of the way business appears to be being done of late.
Any thoughts on the president's trade policies impacting the car business?
Well, I think that, if you talk to manufacturers, there certainly are some concerns there. With tariffs on steel, it's going to make things harder and much more expensive, I think, in the short term. But in the long run, it might free up, in terms of costs, it might free things up and make things better. I think that, we heard from some CEOs from Ford and Fiat Chrysler over their concerns in recent weeks. And they do have some concerns, but they're hopeful in the long run that it actually makes things better.
Well, I love the idea of partnerships. It's kind of weird. On one hand, you're competing. On the other hand, you're partnering up for the technology.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of the way we are in the 21st century, and not just merging the auto industry, but other businesses in what we do in terms of technology and things like that. And so you've got these car companies that might have a leg up on, say, hydrogen fuel cells for one, while another one might have a leg up on, autonomous technology or some sort of technology. And they say, hey, let's put our minds together and we can, beat out the competition and perhaps get a leg up. And so I think that's why we're seeing a lot more merging and more partnerships with these auto companies.
Jeff Manasso, always appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
You bet, Kevin.
Our great friend, Jeff Manasso. Let's go to Jim Middleton with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I wanted to talk about what the president apparently said about deporting illegals rather than putting them into our expensive court system, if that's all right. Is that all right as a topic?
Since I said you're from Middleton and you're from Meridian, you've got me at you've got the get out of jail free card, Jim. Go ahead, please.
We give you a few every now. You get a few passes too every now and then, like the callers and everybody else.
Sure, I appreciate it.
You have a clip on that? I don't see a tweet or anything on it.
Well, the president this morning is. Here's his latest Twitter. Such a difference, the media coverage of the same immigration policies between the Obama administration and ours. Actually, we've done a far better job in our facilities and are cleaner and better managed. That's the latest from the president this morning.
Yes, I heard from a few different news sources that he had said that groups like are down there now, these unfit parents bringing kids across to violate a border, should be deported rather than this delay in putting them into an expensive court process. And that makes sense. I don't know why Congress didn't put that in the original law. They didn't go to the ports of entry They didn't try to use the methods that have been established and, the legal way. They knew they were violating the law. So why would you take criminals and then do them a favor, on our nickel, and get them a judge and assign them all this delay and put them in the court system? I mean, why? No country in the world would do that or does do that, except maybe a few suckers like Germany that have been also scammed by this so-called refugee racket.
Well, but then you saw in Boise they had World Refugee Day, where they were celebrating refugees.
Look at the timing on that. And the Idaho Statesman on the cover page yesterday. I mean, they're flopping around. It shows you how neurotic and into madness these leftists really are. They're going to new extremes.
It is, and like I said, when they attack us, like Maxine Waters and others, they want to silence us, and I don't think America's going to be silenced anymore.
No, and look at another caller last week mentioned the glorious mayor of Boise, who's separating kids from when the bank robbers get arrested and the drug dealers get arrested and the murderers in Boise get arrested. Oh, their kids are being separated from them. Gee whiz, Mayor, when's he going to stop that? I wanted to give a couple of tech tips to your old geezers out there who are like me. I can say old geezer because I'm one of them now, that if you're not on your Twitter pages, I had a Twitter account, about 15 years ago or something, and I never used it. But I just looked at it again this weekend, and the president tweets a lot, and he likes to do that. And so you could get it fresh, you can get it directly, and you can vote on there. There's a little heart, and that would help to show support. I mean, it's a trivial thing, but, why not? Just get him all the votes we can and support the president. That's one. And then I don't know if all the listeners know that your programs are up on YouTube. I found that out, too.
Yeah, Ray Amaya has those up by about 10 o'clock at the latest every day, yeah.
Yes, so if somebody misses one of the hours and wants to catch up on it later in the day or in the evening or at their convenience, they can just go on YouTube and listen to your show again.
That works for me, Jim.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here. The President of the United States tweeting already this morning, and we're going to talk about what happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders over the weekend. Sarah Sanders over the weekend, she was told to leave a restaurant. By the way, Donald Trump saying today right now, hiring many thousands of judges and going through a long, complicated legal process is not the way to go, will always be dysfunctional. People must be stopped at the border and told they cannot come in here illegally.
This is to make a point that they need to leave children alone. This is not the America that we fought for and died for. My community has fought. There's no reason for them to do this to the children.
My community.
These people that have these children in their bus like criminals, they haven't committed any crime.
I'll have what he's having this morning.
We're coming for him in 2020, and we're coming for his Congress in 2018.
Free the children now! Free the children now! Free the children now! Free the children now!
Kevin Miller in the morning here at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The left is a little upset. Rob Reiner, you remember Ray Amaya? You remember Rob Reiner, right? Old meathead from All in the Family. If you've ever watched any of those shows, All in the Family, the son-in-law Mike. Well, Rob Reiner is a political activist now.
I'm here today because the President of the United States created this crisis of separating children from their parents for one reason and one reason only: racism.
I don't know. He sounds like meathead from All in the Family to me. I guess we shouldn't call people names. I retract that statement and apologize to the meathead. Cindy in Caldwell, you're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Cindy.
Hey, good morning, Heaven. I don't know why you feel you should apologize. The Catholic Church this weekend was actually giving accolades to someone who was crying in the wilderness for things that were good, like repent and turn, and that's John the Baptist. And so, out there you are dealing with just that one clip, the vitriolic venom and hatred spewed from that gentleman's voice. I believe there were 200. I forget the name of the Latino group. It is the type of thing that when I worked on many kinds of units in a psych place, that immediately when that type of rhetoric or that tone or that voice, that's the rhetoric that got Steve Scalise and a bunch of baseball players stirring up someone who's more unstable than the man. You know, you use him, and then you use what did Sarah Huckabee Sanders do when she was attacked. And I believe that part of the story was true. If people feel, and I'm so sick of that, this is where our country has gone, that they feel threatened, like two homosexuals that work in a restaurant feel threatened in some ways by Christian standards. That's a good thing, that your conscience is not totally seared, that you might think with your behavior something is a little bit wrong. You will never, ever change the mindset of and two pastors spoke to America at the Crossroads on the weekend, and one is a friend of yours, Sean Hannity, and that is Pastor Jeffers. So Alistair Beggs and people pushing back, America is so sick. If your soul, which is your mind, body, emotions, Catholics say converted, Christians say justified, born again, if that is as sick as it is like a Maxine Waters, you get no place. So the only thing to do is respond as a Christ follower. How do you respond in the Spirit? You either are, and even your most liberal Boise State, whatever colleges, realize you have a soul, which is your emotions, and that's where everything is at in America, or your spirit, and your flesh will just go crawling out to do every kind of nasty thing you want. One. Two.
Right, but you've got, there's a lot of points there in number one. But you look at the popular culture, and what does the popular culture do? It reinforces the secularism. It reinforces the unethical, immoral behavior.
Exactly. And even because of that alone, I would never ask, and I'm just going to tell you this, I totally support our police officers. I would never, ever, and because of your first point, Kevin, I would never, ever want our president to go standing on a bunch of blue, whatever that is, grass over in Boise. Now,
wait a minute, we need the president to come here.
Yeah, and you know what I'm going to tell you where? Because my representative, Greg Cheney, supported it wasn't our president. It was, what don't you understand, Kevin?
Maybe it's the Idaho Center.
No. Doug Erickson.
Now, wait a minute. Don't try and hijack our idea, Cindy.
No, I'm not hijacking. I'm telling you where to ask him and who to ask him. As I talked to Greg Cheney about this Saturday night at church. Because, yes, I do go to Mass, and I need more Bible, so I go to a Bible church.
That's great, but
Greg Cheney will bring him to
Hold on. Hey, Cindy.
Yeah.
This is our thing.
Yeah.
If people want to be involved in it, that's great. We want the people that listen to this program that are involved in this show, great. But
you don't have to have him at the Idaho Center. What's wrong with the Caldwell? What is wrong where he went to in Linden?
Cindy, thank you. It's difficult enough to get a unified message, but if you have someone saying, hey, let's go to Caldwell, let's go to Nampa, no. The iconic blue turf. And that would be planting the flag of conservatism at Boise State, which some say hasn't been there for quite some time. Now, again, everybody's welcome to do it. If Representative Cheney gets him, if Governor Otter gets him, if Tea Party Bob gets him, I had Tea Party Bob going, hey, do you want me to do a letter? Look, we don't own this. We own the movement. And the movement is the president can go to Nevada, if the president can go here, if the president can go there, let's bring him to Idaho. Because one thing that you've taught me is it's not about me. It really isn't. And people say that, but I try to live it. Right? Cindy, just got a little fired up today, so apologize for cutting you off there. But, again, this is something that we all have to be united on. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be part of your day, Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's go to R&R. Good morning, R&R.
Good morning. Well, I want to add my voice to the reason that we really would welcome President Trump, and he could help help with some of the decision making and maybe support the election of Governor Little. I also wanted to add in running for governor, I noticed when there was a local event in Emmett that the potential governess from the north, she was very well represented and seems to be a great, energetic person. She had a real entourage.
Was she there?
Yeah, she had a real entourage of Native Americans with her, and I'd love to hear what the governess, we'd call her, from the north has for an agenda. I think at 4 months out from the election, it'd be great if we could get some kind of rally between Governor Little and President Trump, and maybe do something with your cause also, all of our cause.
Well, we would love to bring the president here, and I'm sure he would rally for everybody in Idaho. I think that's great. Our problem is we're all Republicans.
Oh, I'm not.
Uh-oh.
There's a lot of independents. I was registered independent for 40 years, but every time it's just I vote for the man and the person, and I guess I would say that. And lastly, I sure hope you get on a road trip with your dad.
Well, R&R, I thank you for that. Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, our friend Dave Petzel will join us from the Petzo Center. Petzo Financial will get his thoughts on the upcoming summer doldrums, where there will be doldrums for the markets. What about this trade war? Seems to be heating up. You have people saying that soybean crops are going to impact the Midwest. What is it? 8 of 9 states there voted for President Trump. Can't they just understand that the economy is rolling? How rolling is it? We'll talk to Dave Petzo about that. Don't forget, let's bring President Trump to Idaho. You can make it happen, right? Anything's possible in America. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.